Hey, this is a video about the question on Stack Overflow that's currently the most downvoted for the Swift programming language. When we look at this guy Hoon, who only has feedback of 9, and he only ever asked this particular question, wanted to know about this struct and wanted to know the meaning of static lat and uint equals 0x1 left shift 3. Now, I can say those things because I've looked through this already, but I think this isn't immediately that obvious a question to downvote so many times. So if we look what he's trying to do, it looks like some sort of physics simulation, and you've got small coin 2, and ground. And if we code this in Xcode and print out, of course you can see the answer on this being the right hand side, but I prefer it in the console here. That reveals that small coin is 2, small coin 2 is 4, and ground is 8. So it could be a physics simulation, and these values are something like the weight they have or something similar, or the attraction force. So these downvotes probably come from static lat, because what's happening here is often if you want to have a constant, you might use static because then it's used on the type rather than instance of the type. So here I can do physics dot small coin. Often I'd do that with a enum rather than a struct here, but that doesn't matter for this question. And to be fair, standard, well-documented Swift syntax, it's fairly standard that that would be on the type rather than on the instance. However, this uint32 stuff, you can see we've got open here the Swift programming language documentation, and it's not immediately obvious. Shifting behavior for unsigned integers. Well, in order to read this and see unsigned integers, you'd have to realize that uint32 is an unsigned integer, which can argue is obvious, argues written elsewhere in the documentation. But for someone without a score on Stack Overflow, it's asking quite a lot in a combination of quite a few skills. Logical shift. So here we have uint8 equals 4, not entirely the same as the question we've got, represented in binary, and we shift it. I mean, okay, but our question says 0x1. So what does that mean? Well, that's hexadecimal, in which case you'd have to, say, find on the web what hexadecimal represents. And 0x1 in decimal would be 1. Again, not immediately obvious. So in order to explain what's going on, you'd have to say 0x1 is a hexadecimal representation of 1 in denary, which is 1, or 0.000000001 in binary. And it's this binary representation we shift. So to shift once creates 2, to shift twice creates the number 4, and to shift 3 times is the number 8. And of course I'm switching there between binary, hexadecimal, denary, and it all seems quite complex to even explain. So is it fair to say that these advanced operators are well-documented standard Swift syntax? Yes, but they're also in the advanced section. Well, it says advanced operators, it's not immediately obvious, and it requires that you have some prior knowledge of computing and hexadecimal binary number systems and uint, which is specific to Swift. It's quite tricky, and it's not that easy for someone to immediately jump to the answer that say this is easy. If they've come across this at work, maybe they work at a larger company and aren't familiar with Swift, but have to work on a Swift code base. Well, Stack Overflow unfortunately has not really helped them too much here. I mean, this is some years ago, someone a year ago added something about what the left shift means, but no one ever answered about the static lat part, which is a bit of a shame. And I think this is one of the barriers people have when they get to programming, and one of the barriers to Stack Overflow. A little bit of a shame.